Welcome back to Stop Losing Women. I'm your host, Harry Wilmington, and today's show, we're talking about her epiphany stage doesn't mean you need to rush into a relationship. So, what do I mean by that? Well, as you guys know, if you've been looking at my content or any kind of content involving men's dating and talking about women in relationships and stuff, you know that today, on average, most women spend their 20s partying it up, trying to climb the corporate ladder, and aren't necessarily focused on trying to be tied down, get into a long-term relationship, get married, or even have kids at that stage. Around the ages of 27 to 32, most women start to have this epiphany happen, right? Where they start to notice a few things. For one, they start to notice that a lot of their female friends, the ones they were once at one point in time hanging out with and going to clubs with and, doing all sorts of escapades with, have started to slow down. A lot of them have started to get in longer term relationships. This is around the ages where a woman starts getting invited to more and more weddings and then baby showers. And one by one, her friendships start to go from her female friends are around all the time to, oh, Sally can't make it out tonight because her and her husband are going out to a movie. And then Julie can't make it out because she's taking care of the baby, and so forth and so on. And so this is the time when a woman really starts to evaluate where her life is, where it's going, and what she wants to do next with regards to like getting married and possibly having kids. Now, this is also the time when women start to realize, oh my God, I got a biological clock and it is ticking. And and as a guy that's 43, I've seen several of my female friends go through this where it's like they hit 30 and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, like I really don't have as many eggs as I used to. Or, oh, like my looks are kind of, not that they're starting to fade, but she's starting to have much more competition with more younger women. And this is around the age that women also start seeing that guys that are in their late 30s and early 40s can actually get women that are in their early 20s to mid 20s. So a woman that's 27 to 32 starts to see this and is like, oh my God, I really don't have that much time left as I thought I had. Like in their 20s, it's all about, oh, I can do whenever I got all this time in the world. But I'm telling you, when women hit 27 to 32, it starts getting real for them and they start thinking, I need to lock this down. And then especially with regards to women that want kids, because, in their 20s, their pregnancy window, they got a wide range of time, but they start to find the older they get, it's going to get harder and harder to get pregnant. And the later the pregnancy, the chances of something going wrong with the pregnancy increases significantly the older they try to have kids, right? So all this to say, it's an interesting time as a guy to be dating a woman that is 27 and older, like 27, 35, 37, 40. The older the woman is, what you're going to find is that a lot of the women out there are going to be applying a lot of pressure to you to have to do certain things, right? So for example, like let's say you date a girl and she's 34. Now, by the time a woman hits 34, all her girlfriends are mostly married or in long-term relationships. All that talk they had in their 20s about being independent boss babes and doing, life by themselves and they don't need a man. Well, some of her female friends are now housewives and don't want to work anymore. And some of them, they do have that job structure, but because they got a job and a husband and a kid, they're very, very busy, right? And so, again, there becomes this realization that they got to play catch up because usually at that point, most women they find they're like one or maybe one or two women in their female circle of friends that are the last person to stay. They're the last ones that don't have a guy. They don't have any kids on the way, or maybe they're a single mom and they still never got married or whatever. And so this can lead women to feel, because again, they're internally on a time crunch. Most women don't even believe that's a thing until they hit 30 and they realize, oh crap, I realize I suddenly feel like there's a time, there's a stopwatch in my head somewhere, right? And so you as a guy are going to go out with some of these women. Some of these women are 34 and they're thinking, okay, if I start dating now, I got to meet a guy this year that I'm going to jive with. And then I got to date him for a minimum of 18 months before there's a proposal. And then once I get proposed to, it's probably going to be another year before the wedding. Because I can tell you guys, me and my wife planned our wedding in 6 months. And I understand now why people take a year to plan, because we crushed it and it was hard as nails, and most people need more time. I got another friend of mine that's getting married and she planned hers a year and a half out. And I was like, why are you planning it a year and a half out? And then I had my wedding. It was like, oh, you're actually with the right way with this. That's actually a brilliant thought. But somebody say, so she's thinking all this out, right? So she's thinking, if me and him work out, it's going to be a minimum. If we're not trying to have kids before we get married, because I know that's a weird thought today, but if we're not trying to have kids before we get married, it's going to be a minimum of 2.5 to 3 years before we even have kids. And then a lot of times, I know, like in my family, when the guys get married, they want to have at least 2 or 3 years with just them and their wife and no kids around, because you're not going to get that time back. Once the kids are here, they're here. Like my brother got married, he waited 5 years before he had kids, And so now women's like, okay, so minimum 3 years before I have kids. So I'm 34 now, which means I now got to wait until I'm 37 to try to have a kid. And that's going to be a geriatric pregnancy, and I'm going to be risking my kid's health. Oh, no, no, no. I got to make sure this happens sooner than later. And so you're going to date these women, and they're going to go on dates with you and start asking you all the questions about, so, are you trying to have a serious relationship? And how soon do you think it takes you to get into a relationship? And, are you wanting kids? How many kids do you want? Like, they're going to be asking you all these questions about family and about trying to get a house together and what your salary look like and all this other stuff, right? And then, assuming your first date goes great, because it could go great, you guys could go home and hook up that night, and there could be actual chemistry there, but you're going to find that this woman's going to be really pushing you. Like, I remember I dated a woman one time who, 6 months in, was already talking about trying to, live together and wanted to start talking about engagements. And I was like, we just became boyfriend and girlfriend 3 months ago. Like, what's going on here, right? But that speaks to, again, she was kind of feeling the things of I'm ready to start a family. I'm ready to do whatever. I'm last of my friends that's single. What's going on? And as a guy, we really, really, really don't like to hurt women's feelings. Like most guys, even the guys that we're steadfast, we're alphas, doing whatever, but there's still something to be said for, we have the feeling tone of I would love to give my woman the world, and whatever's in my capacity to do, I want to do. I don't want to have to turn this woman down or hurt her feelings. And women can sense that. So what's going to happen is there's going to come a point where she may start trying to rush certain steps. She may be saying, well, we've been dating for 3 months, let's move in together. Or we've been dating for 6 months, when are you gonna start talking about marriage and the wedding ring and an engagement ring and all this other stuff, right? And they're gonna force you to feel as though if you don't make those decisions, or if you're not on the same timeline as her, that it's not gonna work out. And I am here to say, if your woman is pushing you to do these things, you need to either leave her, or you need to let her know that that's not the program you're on, and if that she doesn't want to get with your program, then that's totally fine. This isn't going to work out, all right? For one, I never want you to be a guy that's so desperate for a woman that you start doing things on her timeline, because here's the reality, right? Because I've seen this before. I've seen this tons of times where, especially when I'm looking at videos online where a woman will have rushed a guy into a marriage, right? Let's say, for example, a woman's 30 and she meets a guy that's 38, and a woman's no, they've been dating for 4 or 5 months, and the woman's no, we should really get married, we should get engaged, this is that, or she'll let one slip past the goalie. Oh, I'm pregnant, I guess now we got to be together long term, right? Those same women will come back 10, 15 years later and talk about, well, we were really inexperienced, and we didn't really date for a long time. We got together too soon. It was too fast, and I didn't say anything. And what the actual story is that she was saying stuff. She was saying, hey, we need to rush this. We need to live together. We should be having kids already. And if you don't, then I'm going to leave you. And most guys, when they hear that, they don't like the idea of a woman leaving them. A lot of guys don't think they could get any better out there, or that nobody else is going to want them. And so they figure, well, this is the best I can do. And she seems to really want these steps really, really badly, which must mean that she really likes me and loves me. So, okay, fine, I'll do that. But here's the thing. This is why you can't let women lead the timeline, because you as a guy, when you're dating her, should be doing your due diligence. You should be looking at, okay, but I need time to see what her temperament's like. We need time to actually talk about, if we were to raise kids, what would that look like? What would her disciplining style be? Where would she want to raise the kids? How would she want to school them? Does she want to do homeschool? Does she want to do where we actually send them to public or private school? You need to see all facets of her, and that takes time. 6 months time dating somebody is really not enough time to know them enough to really get a good gauge for if this is going to work out long term. Some of you guys might think that it is, but it's really, really not. In the span of knowing somebody, think about being married to somebody for 30 or 40 years, right? 6 months time is minuscule. And so I'm not one of those guys that's like, you got to date a woman for 5 to 10 years. I'm not, no. I always say on average, it takes you like 2 years of dating and then 6 months to a year being engaged to really fill out enough to see if she's going to be like long-term material. All right. But suffice to say, like her trying to rush into a quick engagement or having a kid with you 6 months to 12 months in, that's indicative of a woman that really cares more about a timeline than she does about you. And I've seen women play this out where like they're able to like rush the timeline and they get the kid and they get their marriage and all sort of stuff, and they end up being miserable because after they get all that stuff, they realize, oh wait, but there are some things that maybe we don't have in common that would have actually been beneficial to the relationship. Or he actually does have certain values that don't really gel with mine, but they were so blinded by, I got to have a kid now, I got to have a house now, I got to have a husband now, that they didn't really care about who the guy was. And more importantly, they didn't care about things you bring to the table that, for better or for worse, could like cause the relationship to not work. Like, I'm a guy that doesn't want kids. So a woman trying to rush into a marriage with me thinking once we get married, he'll love me enough to want to have kids. That was never going to happen. But I dated women that were like that thought, oh, he'll change his mind later. Again, because they were on a timeline of, but I got to have a kid now. I got to have a kid now. So he's saying he doesn't want kids, but he has all these other great things. So I could probably make him change his mind and show him through my love and that was never going to happen, you know? But suffice to say, in those situations, I was very steadfast in, no, I don't want kids. I'm not moving out of the state. I'm not doing these other various things. And so if that's what you need, those aren't bad things to me. They're just not things you're going to get from me. And as a guy, it's very, very important that you understand this and also understand that means you got to build your mindset up to believe that if a woman comes along and is trying to rush you and it's not the timeline that you want, that you can find other women. And I think so many men stay in these bad situations or in situations where they're feeling rushed, but go along with it because they don't feel like they can get anybody else. And that speaks to you need to modify your mindset and you need to really have the skill set to be able to go out there and meet other women, because part of dating is rejection. Part of dating is breakups. Part of dating is, having to put yourself back out there. And I think some guys feel like they just lucked into a relationship and they don't think to be able to luck their way in again. But if you know how to date and you have the right skill sets, you can date another woman. Like, as much as you want this woman to be with you, if she's trying to rush things and you're not feeling it, you could very easily say, I'm not feeling that, and go out there and find somebody else. But you got to have the mindset and the skill set. If you need more of that, you can go to StopLosingWomen.com, sign up for one-on-one coaching. You can also join my Get Girls Academy, which has a bevy of programs that will help you shift your thinking about dating and about yourself, more importantly. So that way you can actually gain the skill sets that you need to always know that you have on reserve, ready, the skills you need to get another woman should this one not work out. But at the end of the day, you as the guy are the one that's leading this thing. So you cannot let women rush you on their timeline, because it's going to cause bad things to happen. And once those bad things happen, they're going to blame you later for it, even though in the time that it was happening, it was her trying to make this thing happen. So hopefully some of what I said will gel with you. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast, you can go to youtube.com/Harry Wilmington or check out the video. If you're watching the video, go click down below to listen to the podcast. That's all I got for today, guys. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. I'm out. Peace.